Hi there. SUI's this week's price action has pretty much announced that it has re-entered a new cycle. So let's take a look through the Wyckoff lens and see where it is at and where it's heading. If you're new to my sessions, here are the 3 key points that I'll cover during the session. So let's start with the weekly chart. Last week we asked the question, is SUI coin getting back to accumulation? And that was because back then there's still a chance that it's staying or stopping at around the sign of weakness that happened back in April this year. But this week, or even when last week closes, especially the price actions over the past few days, has pretty much confirmed it's not staying around that particular level. All right, this one, as well as this PSY level. All right, so while we have, or the price has just passed through the 1.5 orange key level and find a little bit of buying at that point, if it is really going back to a new accumulation cycle, be careful that it can return to the area below the red key level of $1, much like what happened back in summer, all the way till September in 2024. Alright, a lot of other altcoins have already get to a level similar to that or even lower. But for SUI coin, it kind of just started. Alright, we can basically take out these yellow tags. Alright, because that was supposed to be another scenario that we were discussing. So this one hasn't happened, the LPSY, because it basically got to the higher chance stage that we talked about. Likewise, this one disappeared. So the question now is, where is the selling climax going to be? All right, we don't have this, or you can say that one is right before the LPSY at a high level was another sign of weakness, that mini valley over there. Alright, just to keep the tag. Here, we're going through this, the preliminary support, and heading to selling climax. Alright? If it really comes down to somewhere near where 2024 tested, okay, this uptrend basically is over, so I can remove these lines as well. This, I just want to move away the second test tag at around 45 cents. Okay, was the lowest point for 2024. Not that we can't go lower, because what happened back in 2023 is actually the bottom of this long-term playground zone. Okay, so when we go to the daily chart, let's take a little look at a little bit more detail, because for SUI coin is pretty young. It's a pretty young coin. Sometimes when we look at the weekly, there may not be a full picture of where or how bad SUI can go. The good thing, I would say, among the younger coins is that SUI has still gone through the 2023 period where I'm not sure whether I should call the 2024 dip a winter, or that cycle a winter, but 2002-2003 was absolutely a long, more like a hibernation. Okay, that hibernation period, SUI has tasted it, so at least we have better reference of how bad or how much reference we can find compared to some other altcoins that are already below that hibernation period. Okay. So, very busy, many tags. Basically, the key difference between the yellow and the red is that the red, consider October 10th was the selling climax, and then there was automatic rally and a subsequent test, and now it's still coming down lower and lower, not lowering where the final spring would be. We're just seeing lower and lower tests. Okay? That's the red scenario. The yellow scenario, however, Okay, consider that selling climax has kind of happened sometime at the beginning of this month, and the automatic rally happened just a week and a half ago. All right. Now that we are still going through subsequent tests, okay, we have already put in these tags, and I shared many times that basically selling climax is in the lowest point of an accumulation cycle. So while the test is still seeking the bottom, look at what happened back in March this year. Okay, just about 8 months ago. This was exactly what happened. Okay, it's dropped to a point where it finds very strong support buying from the deep or the low, going back up to show the automatic rally, just to come back for lower tests and then another sign of strength demonstrated, but then it again do another shakeout all the way to this level at around $1.9. Alright, that happened just 8 months ago. So we are going through something that we might have forgotten, because it's 6 months is long enough for letting a lot of people forget what actually happened. Alright, so we are a bit lower than the spring back then. It went to a point near 1.7. That's where we see these 3 days, 14th, 15th, and also 16th, battling around that line. And then that line turned into resistance in the subsequent 3 days. And now we are at this point. So if we look to the left, the reference that we can get from, it's from probably the 2000 spring to summertime. And that's also why the chance of getting below the red key level of $1 is getting higher and higher. It's getting more realistic that it's within reach. So these two tags may end up somewhere near or even lower to that point. While this is continued trading along the stronger half of the downward channel, the upper half of the downward channel, what we hope to see is something like today. We have increased volume, best if it's a white candle, but what's happening right now isn't too bad, because this higher volume consists of like half a candlestick length of a wick pushing the price back from the bottom. Alright, so we see this push from below. So that's a good sign that some people are jumping in and not letting it going further or deeper. But if we look to the left, there's not much reference as to why this is a support level, other than the fact that it's close to 1.3, which is also a psychological factor that a lot of people would love some kind of, more close to the unit number, like 1.30, 1.40, 1.20, that kind of thing, like nothing irregular at the very last digit. Alright, so the strongest support, intermediate support I'm talking about, not the key level, by looking at the chart, I would say below the current point is this around 1.16 or 1.15, roughly that area. Because look at these peaks and these wicks over here. That's where the previous trading back over that period in 2024 found resistance. And while we are above it, that means it can provide at least a short-term support before it comes to challenge the red key level of $1. Alright, so there are multiple intermediate levels after the $1 as well. Okay, there's one at around 88 cents and another one around 75 cents. Okay, before it gets to challenge the very bottom of the long-term playground zone. There are multiple intermediate levels. This one around 0.56. And obviously this very low point back in summer 2024. Alright, kept pressing the wrong button. Sorry about that. When you switch between Windows and Mac, that the brain has to adjust, which particular control, alternate, or option key or control key that I'm actually pressing. Okay, so this is the picture for SUI. It is coming down slower than a lot of other altcoins because I believe of the project adoption and many initiatives that's been running. However, the macro trend, very few can withstand. Okay, so let's see where SUI coin's selling climax is going to be, and be careful that after the selling climax, even though there may be a rebound, okay, if you get in then, expect further tests will come after that rebound. Okay.